for being here so much, especially when the press release was a little vague. So I really appreciate it, and it says a lot about your commitment to our community and this issue that you're here today. I'm Avonna Starck. I'm the State Director of Clean Water Action, and last year, Minnesota became a global leader when we passed the most comprehensive ban on PFAS in consumer products in the world. And we now know this as Amara's Law. We were inspired by Nora Strande, who is fighting a battle against cancer linked to water contaminated by PFAS. We are approaching a year since Amara's passing, and we will not let losing her be in vain. Because of her work and now the ongoing work of the Strande family, she has helped change the world. Minnesota has become a template for other state legislatures in their quest to protect their residents from toxic PFAS chemicals. And states are finally recognizing their strength and taking action and making real change that will protect our environment and human health. We are here today because in 2020, the Biden-Harris administration promised to set water quality standards for PFAS. Today, the Biden EPA fulfilled this important promise, and countless lives will be saved. I'm beyond thrilled to announce that the PFAS drinking water standard finalized today will set science-based limits on the PFAS in drinking water for 6 PFAS. All 6 PFAS have been extensively studied and have been linked to serious health harms, including cancer and harm to our reproductive and immune systems. The finalized drinking water standards are 4 parts per trillion for PFOA, 4 parts per trillion for PFOS, and a standard based on the hazard of a mixture of 4 chemicals. It will be 10 parts per trillion for PFNA, PFHXS, and PFPO-DA, known as Gen X. Communities devastated by PFAS pollution have waited decades for action by the EPA. And today, the Biden EPA is delivering on the president's promise to secure environmental justice by reducing PFAS in our drinking water. I'm proud of the role Minnesota lawmakers, agencies, and advocates have played in addressing the PFAS crisis. Minnesota has fought off an onslaught of opposition trying to weaken this law and gut it, and we will continue to do so. Minnesota has refused these attempts, and I cannot stress that enough. As a mother, I am grateful that we are creating a better, brighter tomorrow for my children and for all of your children. And I will now turn it over to Senator Gustafson.
Hi, I'm Heather Gustafson. I'm State Senator for SD 36, which is the Avonna Heights, White Bear Lake, and Lino Lakes area. Last year, Minnesota passed Amara's Law. It's a pivotal piece of legislation that banned PFAS, also known as forever chemicals, in 11 consumer items, addressed PFAS in fire foam, and mandated information disclosure for PFAS-containing products. This protected our environment, health, and set a precedent that has inspired states across the nation to follow our lead. As a proud author of that information disclosure bill, I am here today to affirm our commitment to safeguarding our water, our environment, and the health of every Minnesotan. In 2020, President Biden pledged to improve drinking water standards. Today, we celebrate the Biden administration for fulfilling their promises, and now in 260 million Americans in 39 states will soon have cleaner water. This recent establishment of maximum contaminant level of 4 parts per trillion underscores our progress toward a safer future. The devastating impacts of PFAS, ranging from cancer to reproductive and immune system disorders, have been extensively documented. This standard will not only save lives, but also reduce the toll of PFAS-related conditions such as cancer and cardiovascular disease. Despite all of our progress, PFAS remains a matter of national concern. Many communities still face PFAS contamination exceeding the new EPA standard, endangering millions. The stark reality is that Americans are still consuming forever chemicals, and while Amara's Law is a significant achievement, it's just the beginning. Congress has acknowledged the gravity of this issue, allocating substantial funds to clean water utilities to adhere to PFAS drinking water standards, including $10 billion through bipartisan infrastructure law, the IIJA, and additional billions through revolving funds. Moreover, water utilities stand to recover billions more from polluters through ongoing litigation. Our fight against PFAS is just beginning. I urge other states to follow Minnesota's lead. It is crucial to hold industries accountable and safeguard our most precious resource, clean water. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Athena Hollins. I represent District 66B, which is the northern neighborhoods of St. Paul. I was the chief author on the PFAS disclosure bill last year, and I live on the east side of St. Paul, which is disproportionately impacted by PFAS in our water. I stand before you today in celebration and relief. For years, Minnesotans have been sounding the alarm on PFAS, and it felt like we were alone in this fight. But this decision from the federal government feels like vindication of everything we've been working for. PFAS is not a future problem. It's something we needed to regulate years ago, and I'm thrilled to see the feds stepping in to take this on. This victory did not come easily. It was the result of tireless advocacy, relentless perseverance, and the unwavering determination of individuals who refused to remain silent in the face of injustice. It was the countless hours spent poring over scientific studies, the impassioned pleas before lawmakers, many of whom put corporate profits over protecting our children, and the grassroots movement that mobilized communities from coast to coast. Today, we extend our deepest gratitudes to those who paved the way for this momentous occasion. The scientists who sounded the alarm, the activists who refused to back down, the state and federal lawmakers who championed the cause of public health and environmental stewardship, and more than anything, the people and the Minnesotans, like Amara, who lost their lives because of the chemicals contaminating our water. I want us to pause today and to renew our commitment to the values that have brought us to this moment. The belief that the power of collective action, the conviction that a better world is possible, and the understanding that our fates are inexorably intertwined with the fate of our planet. Together, we will continue to strive for a future where clean water flows freely, where our air is pure, and where the legacy we leave for our future generations is one of hope and not of despair. This is not the end of our fight. This is a first step. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. I am Jay Eidsness. I'm an attorney with the Minnesota Center for Environmental Advocacy, and I'm thrilled at today's news. Today, our federal government, our federal environmental regulator, stands with science and the protection of public health. Through these new science-based limits, our government has spoken loudly that toxic synthetic chemicals do not belong in our water. This historic act will ensure millions of Americans can have confidence that the water they drink is safe. But this is just one step along a long road to victory. Now the hard work begins to ensure needed upgrades to our public water infrastructure are not borne solely by taxpayers. The public did not create these synthetic toxic chemicals that are now found in every corner of the globe. The public did not design these chemicals to remain stable and persistent in the environment for decades. And the public has not reaped enormous profits by coating a breathtaking array of products from cookware to mascara with these substances. And the public must therefore not be called upon to cover the billions needed to ensure compliance with these new rules. Thankfully, chemical manufacturers like 3M and DuPont are starting to be held accountable in the courts for the damage their products have caused to our water supply. We must continue to press these companies using PFAS to take all available measures to ensure that those that profit by peddling PFAS pay for the harm their products have caused. These measures include tools under the Clean Water Act, requiring industrial users and landfills to install treatment technologies to scrub PFAS from their wastewater before discharging it into our waterways or sending it to our publicly owned wastewater treatment plants, and prohibiting the application of PFAS-laden biosolids in areas near drinking water supply intakes. We have the tools to meet this challenge. Thank you.
I am Nora Strande, and I'm 18 years old, and Amara Strande was my older sister. Almost 7 years ago, my older sister was diagnosed with a rare form of liver cancer called fibrolamellar hepatocellular. Within the last couple years, my family learned about the environmental and health effects of PFAS chemicals and the mass dumping of them on the East Metro of St. Paul. When my sister realized how dangerous these chemicals were, and the likelihood of them being the cause of her cancer, she decided to testify for the ban of them in products within our state. In the last months of her life, she advocated for what is now known as Amara's Law. Amara's Law is the toughest law in the world that restricts the use of forever chemicals. PFAS chemicals have been pervasive in our bodies, water, and environment for decades, causing cancer since the dawn of their creation. But finally, for the first time, we are seeing legislation done on a national level to protect citizens of the United States from these chemicals. With the announcement of the new PFAS drinking water standard, many people, businesses, and utilities are concerned about the price of compliance. But the Environmental Protection Agency estimated household costs for utilities will only be a few dollars more per year per household with the new standard. This cost is nothing compared to the cost of having a sick family member. When Amara was first admitted to the hospital in 2017, she was in ICU for over 40 days. I had to miss my first couple months of middle school, losing time to make friends, which is already hard at that age. My parents had to miss work as well. But those first 40 days of diagnosis amounted to one bill, costing over $900,000. Imagine what another 6 years and 20 more surgeries would cost if that was the initial bill. The average American can spend a couple dollars more on a water bill annually, but I don't know a single person in my life that would be able to pay that first bill alone. But thanks to having a PFAS drinking water standard today, millions of people will not have to pay the high cost my family has, both in money, but also in a young life. Thank you.
My name is Michael Strande. As you know, a year ago, the law sponsored by Jeff Brand, Judy Seeberger, Matt Norris, Athena Hollins, and Heather Gustafson that limited the use of forever chemicals in non-essential products is what my daughter Amara advocated for, and it is now, as you know, known as Amara's Law. Once Amara's Law was signed into law, here in Minnesota, it set off a chain of events that went from the Minnesota Capitol to other states, to the federal Capitol, and to the White House. Using Amara's Law as a model, other states began legislating laws that would ban or greatly reduce and restrict the use of PFAS chemicals. By creating the momentum of banning and restricting the use of PFAS chemicals, the Biden administration recognized that now is the time to introduce a clean water standard that will protect millions of lives across our country. Amara set my family on this journey a year ago. We have taken up the important cause for our communities. We found that when the cause is just and right, government officials will listen. Amara's voice and our voices have been heard. In a time when so many have become cynical about whether government works for us, my family has discovered that government can work for the betterment of us all. The cost of PFAS on our communities has been high, more than just the cost of building treatment plants. PFAS has robbed us of a young woman who cared deeply about her friends, her family, and her community. Amara was just one among millions that will be affected by these forever chemicals. The Strande family is grateful for the Environmental Protection Agency and the Biden administration for their historic precedents today in protecting the people of our country. We thank them for putting human life before desires of corporations. We thank them for doing what is just and good. We thank them for giving us the opportunity to live free of these insidiously toxic chemicals.
Good morning. My name is Oliver Larson. I'm with the Attorney General's office. I just want to emphasize that the office does support this move that the Biden administration is making. It's an important step in what is a long-running effort across many state agencies to deal with the consequences of PFAS. Our office's role in that is to ensure that those entities, as Mr. Eidsness said, that have foisted these costs essentially upon the public are held to account. And we've done that already through a historic settlement with 3M in coordination with our partners at the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency and the DNR. We will continue to hold these companies to account, and we'll continue to work with our partners to ensure that those companies that contributed to these problems are held to account. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Andrea Lovoll, and I work for the Minnesota Environmental Justice Table to do better environmental policy and to protect our public health. And I'm really proud to be here to give you all the closing remarks. Last year, I worked alongside all of these people that you see here to pass Amara's Law. Around this time last year, I stood in this same place and talked about the ripple effect that we would have if we were able to successfully pass Amara's Law. It's important to understand that while we do what's best for Minnesota in Minnesota, we do also have national impact. We're already seeing the effects of what we did here last year. Come here, you wanna come sit with me? I promise I didn't plan this. Wanna say hi? Hi. Our federal regulators have noticed that Minnesota is taking PFAS seriously. And other states have modeled legislation after what we have done here. And the EPA has chosen to announce their MCL standards with us today here as a result. As a mom, it is my duty to make sure that the world my daughter lives in is better than the one that I found it. And that includes one without toxic PFAS, poisoning her, her friends, and her future. I want to personally thank the EPA for joining us in this fight and for helping my daughter have a more promising future. Thank you all.
Andrew, can you repeat one part if
Yeah.
it is done yet?
Yep.
Can you repeat the part you said about being chosen to something or other with MCL? I didn't catch it.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, that the EPA chose to partner with us here today to announce their EPA standard, their MCL standards. And that is meaningful because we were a big part of the fight.
Are there any questions for anyone who spoke today? Wonderful.
Yeah, I got a question just maybe for the representatives from the East Metro. Could you talk a little bit more about what this new rule will mean for your constituents and the eastern part of the Twin Cities Metro, which was, obviously disproportionately affected by these chemicals, or?
Thank you so much. I think what this new rule means for the East Metro, as well as for the entire state of Minnesota, is having these regulations in place means there's going to be a conscious effort to lower the amount of PFAS that's in the drinking water. So it's not going to right the wrongs that have happened historically. We know that people who have grown up on the East Metro have been drinking that water for a long amount of time or played in those lakes, and they are going to be disproportionately impacted by PFAS. But it means that for future generations that are moving forward, there's going to be a standard of safety that's kept up so that our children, I have a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old, have a better chance of not encountering those harmful chemicals and then developing things like cancer and endocrine problems. So, I think there's still a lot of work to do when we talk about this, and we talk about equity on the east side, which is certainly in my district is a majority minority community. I think that the reality is we're going to see a lot. We're going to see a lot of these same sort of situations, just like Amara, coming out of the east side, and that's going to have to be dealt with in some way, or we will all pay the cost, right? As the Strande so eloquently put, nobody can pay those bills, and that means that then we all pay those bills. So the choice is, should the taxpayers pay it? Or should the companies that profited off of putting those PFAS into the water, should they pay that?
The Biden administration also announced $1 billion toward detection and treatment. How can we expect the legislature to use that money to, I guess, further these efforts?
You didn't get a chance to talk.
I was going to say, probably at first that I'm having to be in charge of what the White House is doing with the money here in Minnesota, but we'll go with it. I just think that the partnership continues, so that money is there, and then it's up for us to make sure that it's advocated in the correct way, and that the money that comes to Minnesota is used for what we need it to be used. And it sort of highlights it, right? If we know that that money is available to us, then it prioritizes us to have clean water legislation, which is something that is important and that we all value anyways. You asked the question about the East Metro. I'll tell you that it's not just PFAS that we've been infected by. If you take a look at what Water Gremlin did to put the chemicals in our soil and our water, and then just last year, I fought for $13.5 million in bonding for a Lino Lakes Water Treatment Center. One of the reasons why that's important is not just because the infrastructure of clean water, but also because they had, and I think it was 5 tanks, only one of them was actually usable, and that had that had PFAS in it. So we're talking about real communities, my community, who is affected by not just PFAS, but other chemicals too. And I hope that when we take a look at PFAS legislation, we also realize that there are lots of things that are probably in our water, and if we're not holding that accountable and we're not making that a priority at the legislation, our communities probably don't have any idea. And they're being, exposed to things that really can have real health impacts, as, we've seen with the Strande family. So, hopefully that answers your question, but.
Go ahead. I would just say, I'd imagine that any of that will likely have to wait till next session, being that it's a little far into this one. Is that fair?
For sure, that's absolutely fair. We're in the 9th inning of this session, so yeah, thank you.
Does the Attorney General Swanson's agreement with 3M, does that preclude 3M being held any more accountable, I guess, from the corporate level in terms of helping pay for this cleanup?
No. So the settlement does have releases in it. The releases are specific to certain types of issues. There are actually multiple settlements between the office and 3M. And so we're active along with PCA in ensuring that expenses that are incurred by the state are sequenced properly, that we're pulling from the right settlements in the right order, pulling money from the right buckets to maximize the recovery to the state. But as new sources of pollution are identified, usually groundwater plumes that are discovered that are leaking into surface water bodies in particular, we're engaged with 3M in discussions. So far, 3M has been committing to pay the remediation costs associated with new sites. And if they don't, we'll be ready to deal with that.
As one who lives on the east side, I wanted to answer this gentleman's question over here. There was a recent testing of the Woodbury water for PFAS chemicals that was put out by the Environmental Working Group. And they tested it at 394 parts per trillion. The EPA level, as you know, is 4 parts per trillion. Let me put that in perspective. 4 parts per trillion, this is how toxic PFAS chemicals are. 4 parts per trillion is equivalent of 1 drop of water in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. How will this affect the people on the east side? Hopefully, in the next several years, the kids at Tartan High School will stop saying, don't drink the 3M cancer water. Thank you.
I have a question from fellow reporter Kent Erdahl, who said, it looks like the dashboard map has been pulled down due to the new standards. What would they recommend for Minnesotans who want to know how their communities are doing?
MDH and MPCA have a press advisory at 2:30 this afternoon, and so I would suggest clarifying that with them at 2:30.
They're not here.
Correct. Any other questions?
Can you just kind of explain, Avonna, what this event is? This is one of several across the nation, several?
Yeah, the main event was held in North Carolina, and the Minnesota and Michigan were both asked to emphasize and share these new wonderful standards. So thank you for asking. We're very proud that we were chosen to do this.
How do families, is there a right to act, private right to action in the environmental code? And can families like Amara's family sue companies or sue the state? Or how do you, what's your possibilities there, I guess?
Let me start by saying I can't give legal advice to private citizens. In general, yes, there are rights of recovery. These are difficult cases to bring. Many have already been brought, and they exist in various places across the country. And what I can say is that I expect that eventually a lot of those will be consolidated into various class actions and resolved through that forum. But if there are people who think they have those kinds of claims, they should obviously speak to a private attorney. There are many private attorneys operating in this space, so contact somebody who is experienced in this field and get some advice on what the rights of recovery might look like.
The settlement money for the East Metro is exhausted at some point as these communities are trying to filter the water. Does the state have the ability to go back to 3M and extract more funding for that?
Yes, and what I would say is that there should be, I cannot explain that in, the 5 minutes maybe that I have with you, but that gets back to the fact that there are multiple settlements. Now, there is an expectation that the recovery that was made under the primary settlement that you're familiar with is going to cover not all, but large parts of the costs that are now going to be incurred to do these surface water, to do these installation of pollution control equipment for these, public water suppliers. So that work is, I don't know, it's not in the ninth inning, but it's far along in the game in terms of establishing those plans, and then the next phase is to implement these projects. PCA and MDH are probably the better partner to talk to about the details of that. But yes, if there's a need for more money associated with those projects, the state has options, and that's probably as much as I can tell you, although, not offline, but in a longer forum, we'd be willing to discuss that with you.
Any other
Can you get the
questions?
spelling of your name?
Sure, Larson is Larson. First name is Oliver.
I have one more question for you,
Okay.
sir. Is there anything in the 3M settlement that would preclude Minnesotans from getting some, the dollars in some of these other cases in other states?
The answer is it depends. And what I can tell you again, I can't offer legal advice to private people, and I would suggest that people talk to private attorneys. There are things that were released in the primary 3M settlement that could have an impact, but I would not see the 3M settlement as being a block. There are other, basically what I can tell you is there are multiple types of theories that you could bring if you are injured by PFAS, and not all of them or even most of them would be impacted by the settlement. So I would expect that people who can trace their injuries to PFAS and trace it to a particular manufacturer would be able to bring their own claims and be successful with them.
Any other questions? Well, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate how much you are all following this and tracking this and caring about it and elevating it for the people of Minnesota. Thank you.